Well, April Fools came early this year, even if only by one day. Today, Putin, well, he had already announced this, but he declared, I guess formally, that Russia will be demanding payment for gas in rubles, which, hey, that seems like, just boring, like, financial or economic news. What does that have to do with April Fools? Well, the fools come in the form of the Western European leadership, the folks in the European Union, who think that they can just say no. They said, no, we're not going to pay rubles, as if it's their choice. I mean, they have no alternative. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. You have this guy, Robert Habeck, or Habeck, I'm not exactly sure how you say his name, who is like the... he's not the prime minister of Germany, no. He's like a super minister. He supposedly leads like 3 different departments, or I guess they call them ministries, in Germany. And apparently 2 of them are the Ministry of Economics and the Ministry of Energy. And he came back, or I don't know, I don't think he actually went to Russia. I think he may have talked to the Russians and said, oh yeah, we got this all settled. Don't worry, guys. We're not going to have to pay rubles to get our gas. We're not going to have to do that. And then within hours, within 24 hours at the very least, the Russians came out and formally declared that what Robert Habeck said is completely untrue. Apparently the way this is going to work is that these European countries, they have euros. They want to buy Russian gas. Well, they're going to have to open an account with Gazprom Bank. And Gazprom Bank acts as a financial intermediary, because that is the job of a bank. And they'll say, okay, you've got euros and you want to buy gas. Well, of course, you need rubles to buy gas. So what we will do as a financial intermediary is we will sell your euros on the foreign exchange market for you, and in return give you rubles, which you can then buy gas from Gazprom with. So yes, the European countries who proclaimed so definitively, and I don't know why they go out and do things like this. They just eat away at what little credibility they have left. They declared, boldly, no, we'll never do that. We'll never touch a ruble, not on our lives. As if they had some kind of, leverage to negotiate. Like they could just say that, and then Putin was going to go, oh, okay, guys, don't worry, you can pay for your gas in euros again. As if Putin was just going to tweet out tomorrow, hey guys, April Fools, I wasn't serious about you actually having to pay for your gas in rubles. Why would Putin want euros at this point? As much as Russia's been sanctioned, they have no real use for euros or dollars. And so if you essentially kick Russia out of the euro and US dollar global economy, why would you be surprised when they say, okay, well, if you want to buy things from us, then we don't want your currency because that's no good to us anymore. We want you to pay us in our own money that we can actually spend. In the same way that, let's say, a company in Zimbabwe wanted to purchase, some of the products that I make at my business and import them into Zimbabwe, I would demand that they pay me in US dollars, not Zimbabwe dollars. What the hell am I going to do with Zimbabwe dollars? And within Russia, since they've been sanctioned out of the Western economy, US dollars and euros are about as good as Zimbabwe dollars, because they supposedly are not supposed to be importing stuff from the United States and from Europe, at least nothing that they'd want. They're being sanctioned on all these, different products coming out of these countries, and so they have really very little reason to hold those currencies. They don't need, a lot of euro foreign reserves or dollar foreign reserves if there's not a lot of trade going on with countries that use those currencies. They don't have to worry, about the balance of trade. And so demanding rubles for gas is pretty reasonable, and, in hindsight, it's something that should have been expected. In fact, Luke Roman, I think, is the guy who gets the credit for calling this first. At least he's the first guy I heard mention it. He's the only guy I heard talk about it before Russia actually said it. It just didn't occur to me. But as soon as they did it, it makes perfect sense. Because not only do the Russians have, little use for dollars and euros now, since these sanctions were meant to try and turn the ruble into rubble, as Biden said. The point was supposed to send the ruble to 200 rubles to the dollar. It's currently sitting around the mid to lower 80s, I believe, as of today. It was in the mid 80s last I checked. That's darn near where the ruble was when all these sanctions started. And I'd imagine that good reason that the ruble is not weaker, that the ruble may very well strengthen and completely overcome the dip that began after the start of this war, thanks to this gas for rubles policy. It's giving people a reason to have to buy rubles on the foreign exchange markets and bid up the price of it. Furthermore, when these gas customers of Russia have to convert their euros or dollars or pounds or I guess maybe even Swiss francs, since this does include Switzerland, since Switzerland broke their neutrality. I mean, it's so absurd that, if you need an example of the level of derangement in this Ukraine war, just look at Switzerland. Switzerland was neutral during World War II. Think about that. Every country, if you look at a map of World War II, the height of Nazi Germany's power, it was literally, all of mainland Europe minus Switzerland. Switzerland was just sticking there. They were, and they were saying, no, we're not going to take a side in this. We're not going to take on the Nazis. You know why? Because they didn't want to get their heads chopped off. And I used to have respect for Switzerland because of that, because, they understood, hey, we have our mountains, we're mountain people and valley people, because there's always a conflict between mountain people and valley people, but, hey, we can defend the passes. We have plans to bomb the passes so that, if there's ever an invading army, we can stop them, and, we're just going to hunker down in our Alp fortress. And, we're going to fly above all you haters out in the rest of mainland Europe. You guys can all have your wars. We're going to get on with our lives. But no, Switzerland decided to join the sanctions party, which, it's just disappointing. I don't like to see, it's like they're losing their innocence. Actually, that's exactly what it is. That's why Russia is now giving them retaliatory sanctions. But anyway, this will hurt their currencies, because now, instead of being able to use their currencies to buy gas from Russia, they won't. They're going to have to sell their currencies on the foreign exchange markets and buy rubles. But hopefully the Europeans will just capitulate and swallow their stupid pride, because they just don't have much to be proud of these days, to be honest, and break down and buy some rubles so that they can exchange them for gas. So their people, now they're coming out of winter, so I guess their people won't freeze to death, but they might starve, because without natural gas you're not going to be able to make the fertilizer, and of course they won't be able to produce the stupid urea, which the insane European environmental regulations mandate you must put in diesel trucks. It's not anything required for them to run, but it's just there's this product of natural gas, of Russian natural gas, which must go in there, which is supposed to clean up the exhaust fumes. And of course, because this is an environmental regulation thing, if you don't put that fluid, which is not necessary for the motor to run, the computer will just turn the motor off or put it in limp mode or something like that. So they won't have any trucks to deliver, even if they have diesel fuel, which also coincidentally comes from Russian oil. Let's say they were able to get, diesel fuel from the United States, and let's say we send diesel fuel in the U.S. up to like $7 a gallon to do it. They still won't be able to drive them unless they have the natural gas. That natural gas, they can only import so much in the form of liquefied natural gas, which must be shipped on tankers all the way across the Atlantic. And then, of course, that'll drive up the price of fertilizers and urea here at home in the United States. Transportation costs and food costs are going to necessarily skyrocket. All of which can be avoided if the Europoors swallow their dumb pride, and and the Americans too, of course. I mean, Washington is irredeemable. I don't mean to say that they're any less culpable in this whole crisis as the Europeans, but as long as the Europeans can just shut up and buy the gas from Russia and the oil, and perhaps restart Nord Stream 2, which unfortunately is not going to happen. That's probably the worst news that's come all year, as far as I'm concerned, that actually affects my life, because what the end of Nord Stream 2 symbolizes is just it is the severing of the Russian oil supply from the Western world. And it's just so terrible, because it shouldn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be this way, but it is going to be this way. And you should remember that as you're experiencing hardship as a result of all this, you should remember that your leaders chose to do this to you. They did it on purpose. Joe Biden himself said there will be food shortages. Remember, there is a direct correlation between carbon emissions and human prosperity. And so, as these Western elites try and encourage us to reduce our carbon footprint, so to speak, a term that I believe was invented by British Petroleum around like 2005, propaganda term, as they want us to reduce our carbon footprint, and as they try and restrict access to fuel, by being belligerent towards Russia and not willing to make deals with them, as they sacrifice our standards of living. Just remember that. Every decision they make which results in less fuel being supplied to the West is an affirmative decision on their part to make our lives worse, to make us all poorer. That's what you're doing. Remember, before the Industrial Revolution, the fuel which we had on this planet, they were all renewable fuels. We had wood and we had wind. What started the Industrial Revolution was the utilization of coal. Fossil coal, not charcoal, not coal that is, formed from biomass. It was fossil fuels which enabled us to harness and have access to so much energy that we've been able to, in a few short centuries, make daily human life unrecognizable. We had thousands of years with relatively little progress in human prosperity. And in the last few hundred years, since the beginning of the utilization of fossil fuels, we have been able to accomplish more than anyone in the preceding world, in the old pre-carbon world, could have ever imagined. And so as these degrowthers, as your World Economic Forum types, as they encourage people to move away from that, they're wanting people to move back towards serfdom. It's as simple as that. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.